Welcome to the World United. Welcome to the World United.
Before we are going to have a musical break with wonderful and another profound musician, a magnificent guy, Epka Dikoba. I have a question for you, Yamvati. After this question, we go for Epka.
Okay.
If you see yoga, the people across the world have made it synonymous with asana, almost.
Yes, unfortunately.
So, what is called as 10 commandments, the do's and don'ts of yoga, the yama niyama. Ahimsa satyam asteyam aparigraha brahmacharya. Shuchi, Chocha, Santosha, Tapaswadhyaya, Ishvara Pranidhana. The Yama, Pranayama, Asana. The next four, the first four are external things.
Yes.
What you do, how you do. But the next four are internal things, from Pratyahara to Samadhi. So, from Dharana, sustained attention, to Dhyana, meditation, Samadhi, equanimous state. How to make these masses awaken to understand the internalization of consciousness to Samadhi through Dharana and Dhyana, instead of making them synonymous with only asana. How to spread this knowledge of internalization of consciousness, that is a real part of yoga.
It is.
How to make
Absolutely.
that?
So for me, what I do is I go to the platforms that are popularizing yoga and making yoga synonymous with asana. And I use the same platforms to educate that that asana is one of 8 different practices that make yoga yoga. So I call myself a holistic yoga ambassador, just because I'm always trying to educate people. And so, for example, on my social media accounts, on my Instagram, for years I was against posting any picture of me in a yoga asana because I did not want to propagate that misunderstanding or that misconception. But I realized I have to go in with a different approach, where nowadays I will take a picture of specific asana, and in the write-up, I will explain what it does, why it's important, what breath work accompanies it, so that it's packaging it in a more holistic, educative way, still marketing it to people's ego. Because the reason that people have just cinched onto the asana is purely an ego thing. It's to show off your flexibility, it's to show off your strength, it's to show off your body control, which is not the yogic practice, that's the ego practice. And so I think it's important for all of us as practitioners, as teachers, as leaders, to still use those same channels to bust that myth wide open and teach and lead by example. And so I'll often be doing short videos, educating people on these platforms about the importance of pranayama. In my classes, I've been approached by studios who want me to come and teach, and they only want me to teach asana. I refuse. I do not accept that. Or if I do accept it, I will go and I will still teach pranayama. I will still teach meditation in the classes. So that people start to understand that it's a whole package, and it's questioning the why. Why are you doing this? And so I think for me, that's how I've approached it. I'm using the same forums. I'm using, whether it's social media or word of mouth or through my website, to educate people that asana is one of 8, that the other 7 are as important, if not more important, than the asana. And they are important because of the why. We don't talk about the why. And I think all of us need to take responsibility and talk about the why more and more and more. So that would be, that's been my approach. And it's been very informative. I've had lots of really great feedback of people saying, oh, I didn't know that hip openers release deep-seated traumas and fear and flight response. I did not know this. And so it's if I hadn't posted a picture of me in a butterfly pose with the why as the explanation, people wouldn't have been curious enough to even digest that information. So that's how I'm approaching it. And I believe we can all approach it in our own ways, but it is important to speak from a holistic and integrated viewpoint on yoga.
Thank you very much. So before we take another question, we will have a short musical break with our fabulous Ebga Dikoba. We are all waiting for your tune. Are you ready? Fabulous.
Lovely.
Expression.
So yoga and music.
Where the breath.
Thank you very much. So before we conclude the session of the day 4 of the World Parliament Africa chapter, a question to the speakers and panelists of the themes, spirituality and yoga. We have got RIEHL and also Nyambati Gichau. I got another question about yoga. As I told, people come to yoga teachers mainly because of health, physical or mental, whatever. Mainly physical, to some extent mental. People who are suffering from mental ill health, normally they won't pursue because they're mentally ill already. The psychological configuration is not really disciplined enough to get into yoga, but still, if they can get into the path, they will reap great benefits. So, like asana has become synonymous with yoga, people approach yoga for its therapeutic effects, not for spiritual effects, not for spiritual. How do you think yoga bring great transformation energy? How do you think yoga can bring great transformation in our personality, the way we think, the way we talk, our attitudes, our habits, our belief system, our purpose? How do you think yoga can really bring transformation in a holistic way?
I think there is little chance today. I'm sorry, but I'm not very optimistic about it. The main fuel is the motivation. That is the motivation of, let's call them a student, and motivation of the teacher. As far as today, all over the world, the image of yoga has become a physical exercise for developing whatever we're dreaming about. But the idea is, it's a soft, let's say, gymnastic. And this has become the main motivation of students. A big percentage of people going to yoga teachers have let's call it a better being motivation. But by being, they're not talking about the being. We say well-being, but it is mainly a better body. And also there is this question of to quieten the mind, to have the mind more quiet, facing all obligations and responsibilities. So the motivation is quite important, because this is the main reason why people go. And then there is the motivation of teachers. And what I see, mainly in Europe, is that very often now the motivation of teachers is just earning the life. They are made yoga teaching as a job, and they are hoping for whole advantages when you work, not only money but everything. So the motivation has become, for me, motivation is very important, because if you give the mind a direction and you stay with it, you will go into that direction. You might not reach perfectly the goal, but you will go into that direction. That is, asana has become a product in the yoga market. And we have to be just realistic with this. This is how it is very often. Not always, but mostly. So if, I don't know, if you have the motivation to go in holidays in Kashmir or wherever, you will end up there. You will not end up in, if you want to go in Italy, you will not end up in Africa. You will arrive in Italy, because the motivation is very important. Now, I think it is a kind of too late for changing it. I remember 50 years ago when we were talking about using the word yoga, the people who came, maybe 80–90% were coming from spiritual motivation. Today, it is about the opposite, that the same percentage is coming for a better feeling of the body and the mind. And we have built this idea today that this word, which means union, is for uniting body and mind. But body and mind have never been separated. This has never existed. This is just a belief. And also I'm sorry to say that, but this has come mainly from Indian teachers who have really spread this hasana, I could even call it sadness, sickness. And they so much spread asana. In the text, in the asana text, for example, in the Nat, which is the lineage where Hatha Yoga were born, there's only 12 asanas, that's all. And so by spreading hundreds and hundreds, especially photos, and we have come, I mean, image is an image. If you set up an image, people take it. And slowly it is changing the idea of what it is. So we are working a lot for this, for bringing again back if you take Patanjali, when he says yoga is when the mind is silent, that's what it is. So if you're talking about this to bring silence to the mind, people will say, but this is not yoga. Yoga is physical exercises. And it is strange because it went well for several millennia. And it took only, 20 years, 30 years for yoga to be diverted into physical exercise. I feel it has followed the whole movement of human societies where materialism has become very, very important. And body is the more materialistic part of our being. So we work on it. I'm not sure there is, might be I think we have a chance today because of this virus. In Europe, many yoga studios are closing. In fact, they're not yoga teachers, they're asana teachers. So many asana studios are closing because they're in bankruptcy. Economically, it's a drama all over Europe. And we are trying to launch forums with asana teachers, not for teaching them something else, but for discussing about the depth of yogas and why do we teach asana? What is the reason for teaching asana? So we're trying to have many forums about this, just for thinking together. Now, when we are, today in Europe, when somebody has a spiritual quest, he doesn't go to yoga teacher, very rarely. They don't go, because it is not considered as a spiritual path. And
yeah,
it's a big question. Yeah, I'm very long in answering.
Thank you, Andreji. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for your precious time. Thanks for your very wonderful subject. The same question for you, Nyamavati Gichau.
Yeah.
So how do you think yoga really transformation inside out? The way we think, the way we talk, the way we behave, the way we align to the purpose, everything. How do you think yoga can really bring transformation?
So I've found in my classes, so I teach one-on-one a lot of private individuals, but I also teach in offices and office groups, because I believe that's where the practice is needed the most. In offices, people are living a very unnatural lifestyle, sitting at desks, concrete jungle. And so the practice, and so you have higher levels of stress, higher levels of depression and anxiety in those places. So I like to go and teach in those spaces. And what I found, especially in terms of transformation, is the feedback that I get from my students. And I have multiple students always coming back to me saying how they have seen, so they're not spiritually open-minded or open to even discovering their, spirituality. And they come for the physical, right? So they come for the asana. Then they meet me, who is a very holistic teacher, and I force them to do at least the other limbs of yoga, to practice those as well as the asana. So by the time they leave my class, by force, they have practiced more than the asana. And the constant feedback that I get from these students is, like I had one tell me, was it 2 weeks ago? He goes to the gym and he lifts weights. And he started to tell me how just by attending my classes in the office, he started to breathe as he's doing these exercises in the gym. He's starting to practice more body-mind awareness in what he is doing, and not just when he's at the gym and lifting weights and using his breath to engage and help, but also when he is driving, when he is home, when he is interacting with other people. So the transformation I found is happening automatically, and people, or at least my students, are noticing that, one of the major popular feedback that I get is I'm a much calmer person since I started this practice. And so for me, that gives me hope, because it shows me it doesn't matter the motivation that one had when they came into the practice. It's about what they learn while they are in the practice. And so it's, again, the responsibility then lies on the teacher to make sure that they're teaching in a holistic way, to then represent and give the gifts that this practice is supposed to give those to whoever is coming. So if people are coming to yoga classes just purely for asana, fantastic. They have at least found the path. They have at least come and they are curious. So now it's up to who is in that class teaching the class, and how are they teaching? Are they reinforcing the idea that it's just about asana, or are they shedding light that asana is just a pin drop in the ocean of gifts that this practice is giving? Right. So again, for me, it's really, I hold other yoga teachers accountable for this practice, especially in the city I live in, Nairobi. It's very fast paced. It's very capitalist, very commercial. And so you find, say, power yoga, which I call power asana, because there's no other practice that they're doing that can then make it can then be called yoga. It's really just the asana. So that's the most popular form of practice here. And so what I find is I have a lot of students who used to go for power yoga, and then guess what? They got an injury. Why? Because they were moving way too fast and they were only focused on just the asana. They come now to me for restorative practices, for hatha practices. And then I show them the missing pieces in, it's not just how you're holding your pose, it's why you're holding your pose, how are you breathing, what's going on in your mind, what thoughts and emotions are coming up to be released. And the more I teach in this holistic way, the more the students, when they step off the mat, they start to become a lot more aware of their motivations and their intentions in doing what they are doing and why they're doing what they're doing. And so I believe that if all of us as yoga teachers take that responsibility to teach in a holistic way, then it's an automatic ripple effect that the students will have more enhanced awareness and more seeking questions, which is the spiritual path. And guess who those questions will be addressed to? They come back to the teachers. And the teachers then impart more wisdom, impart more knowledge, and impart more questions for the students to then go and seek as they go within. So for me, the fact that people have motivation to just come for the asana, I think is a great thing, because it's brought them to the door of the practice. Then it's now the transformation continues with what happens once they open the door. So that's how I've approached it. And that's what I've seen in almost all of my students. I had students, especially when you're teaching groups, you've got mixes of people, and you can read the dynamic in the group. You can see the ego-driven ones. You can see the shy ones hiding in the back. You can see generally the intentions of the people when they came into the room. And once you start to identify, okay, this one is just, this one is here really just for their own kind of self-validation. It's now, as a yoga teacher, practicing the non-judgment act of understanding, of empathizing, and not judging and saying, okay, this one's just an egotistical person. No, it's, okay, this one is here because they're looking for specific validation. And so how do I, as a teacher, guide that person to, yes, give them that validation, or teach them how to give themselves that validation. Teach them how to look within for what it is that they came seeking externally. And so I think I'm actually very optimistic about this, because if they come seeking just the asana, fantastic. Then it's about blowing their minds open with how wonderful and transformative this practice is, not just in the body and the asana, but in all the other 8 limbs. So again, it comes down to the teacher. It comes down to the teacher taking responsibility for understanding what it is that they are teaching, and for making sure they're teaching the whole curriculum, not just one module. So I hope I have answered your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. And what is the meaning of your name, Nyamavati? May you know that?
Nyamwati.
Yeah.
It's a very, even where I come from, it's a very rare name, and it's basically, depending on how you use it in a sentence, in the context, it either means leader, it means warrior, or it means preacher. And it's not a coincidence, it's synchronicity that this name came to me, because I embody these 3 aspects. Thank you.
This name is found in India.
I have heard this, yes, that there's a version of this name in India. So I believe in past lives. I must have had multiple past lives as a yogi in India. So the name kind of followed me into my Kenyan lifetime.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Andreji. Thank you, Nyamavati. Thanks a lot for your wonderful deliberations. And
thank you very much.
A lot for enlightening all of us and the whole world. And with this, we close the day 4 of the World Parliament on Spirituality, Africa chapter. And tomorrow we are going to meet at 9 a.m. Eastern African time. Before we close, we are going to have another tune from Mataji, Mata Tejomai. She has been instrumental in playing a vital role in this World Parliament Africa. So at personal level, when we started the World Parliament, dates were announced for Africa, I had a very tough time, because my contacts in Africa were very less. So I asked Mataji, I need your help. So she jumped into action. So she has been instrumental as a pillar of support, as backbone of this event. So thank you very much. Thanks for everything, Mataji. So we all will love to listen to your tune. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you again. Thank you all. And I'm happy with this. I can say I'm really happy with this. When we talk about yoga, we talk about sampradaya, or lineage also, and how the energy is passed from guru to disciple. And then, the guru within arise. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurur Sakshat Para Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. And I'm going to chant a mantra. Actually, it's 2 mantras. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hey Nathanarayan Vasudeva. I combine both. And I invite you to interiorize and chant within as well. Chant loud if you want. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. He Nathanarayan Vasudeva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Enathanarayan 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 Vasudeva. Om 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 Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Enathanarayan Vasudeva. Enathanarayan Vasudeva. Enathanarayan Vasudeva. Om Saraswati Namaha. Om Aim 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 Saraswati Namaha. Saraswati Namaha. Keep on closing your eyes and chant Om inwardly. Okay? Chant Om on Muladhara chakra. Om. Om. Chant Om on Svadhisthana chakra. Om. Om. Chant Om on Manipura chakra. Om. Om. Om Anahata chakra. Om. Om. Chant Om on Vichuddhi chakra. Om. Ajna chakra. Om. Om. Om on Sahasrara chakra. Om. Om. Chant Om. 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 Just Om. We're talking about Om. Om. Aum. 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 Just keep on chanting Om inwardly. Om, and get into the silence. And I would like to close the sound session with 3 Oms. Take a deep breath. And all together chant. And cherish the silence within. Thank you very much. Divine blessings, love, light. Thank you.
For the wonderful tune. Sound relaxes. So I would also listen to the sound of Edmund Ladla.
Yes. During the apartheid days, yes, during the apartheid days, you know this thing of saying a black man is a baboon? I love that. And I use that a lot. And I do admit that I am a baboon. Because secretly what we do, we look at other nations, we say, no, those ones in the evolutionary cycle, they're still low. So the Africans tended to be one of those victims, and I like that. I used to have this English friend, and I would go, he'd take me to a restaurant to have tea. I say, how can I have tea in a restaurant when I can have tea at home? He says, no, my friend, the reason for going to a restaurant is that we should talk. I never saw the idea of wasting money and buying tea in a restaurant when I can do it at home. Now, one day he wanted to take some pictures. I said, okay, fine, I'll go up a tree. He was an Englishman. I'll go up a tree and then you'll take the pictures and send them to your friends in England and say, this is my friend. He was going home on the tree. So, as spiritualists, we should be able to confront, but in a spiritual way. That is why comedy is the most powerful tool on earth, more than the military, more than ammunition. Because if somebody says I'm a baboon, yes, but before I was a baboon, I was two selves, one self from my mother and the other self from my father. Then I started to look something like a fish. So I've been a fish before in my mother's womb. And then I've been in a spaceship. So use comedy as much as possible. There is no race that is superior, and there is no race that is inferior. We are all the same spirit.
Thank you very much, Dadla. Please join tomorrow as well. Last day of the World Parliament. It is going to begin at 9 a.m. Eastern African time and ends at 2 p.m. Eastern African time. So after the sessions and discussions are over by 1 p.m. African time, we are going to have valediction. I invite all the speakers, please forward the message to all our speakers, put a word to all of them, call them, communicate with them, invite them. So valediction is going to begin at 1 p.m. We are going to make some announcements about the councils and all, so many other things. So thank you very much. Thank you, Andreji. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Dadla. And thank you, Valerie.
Hi, Andre, I like your travels and your experiences, Sufis, and wow.
Where are you staying, Edmund? Which country are you
I'm in Botswana.
Botswana. I
Yes.
really must visit all these places.
Right now, I'm facing a mountain which is a holy mountain. It's called Baratane. Lava has disappeared there. We venerate that mountain a lot, and we are going to make it a pilgrimage of Africa.
Good.
So yes.
Yugandhar, I am teaching whole day tomorrow.
Yes.
And I will not be able to attend.
Okay, great.
I will teach from early morning till late night, all day.
Yeah.
Merci beaucoup, André. Merci, merci, merci.
Good to see you. Good to see you, Valerie, too. It's been a long time.
Qui dit merci, André? Oh, c'est Yebga qui dit merci?
Oui, c'est moi qui merci.
Et alors, Yebga, vous êtes à quel endroit, vous? Dans quel pays?
Je suis à Londres. Actuellement, je suis au bord de la mer à Brighton. Je suis à Brighton.
D'accord.
On viendra vous visiter à Paris. Hein?
Pardon?
On viendra vous visiter à Paris quand on peut voyager.
J'habite dans le sud de la France, près d'Avignon.
Ouais, je connais. J'ai joué dans le vieux château, là.
D'accord.
Ouais, je prendrai votre adresse et tout ça.
Je peux l'écrire tout de suite, là.
D'accord.
Et puis, je te